talked about this last night, but I think we need to set this record. Is it 1883 or Yellowstone is the best Paramount Plus streaming show?
1883. Oh my gosh, I'm sitting on it. Okay, 1883. I would say 1883 is poetry on screen. If you guys haven't seen it, it's amazing.
Poetry on screen. I mean, with a testimonial like that, how can you not? How can you not? Tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?
I am VP of Marketing Automation at Paramount Plus. I work in the Paramount Plus International division. So there's Paramount Plus US and International. And the key to what I'm doing is scaling, because we have a small team, not a lot of resources, but we have to service 8+ regions.
So how big of a team do you guys have over there?
Okay, so you caught me off guard. Probably about 25. If you compare that to the US, they probably have like 300.
Got it. And so you're doing this across how many different regions globally then?
It's about 8 regions,
okay.
But that we group LATAM all together.
Got
so
it.
that's many countries in one.
Got it. So when you start thinking about how to set up your marketing automation, does it really kind of have to vary based on different countries versus what you're doing in the US, or can they be synonymous?
No. It's very specific to the region. There's rules and regulations within each region that you have to follow. Some areas are stricter than others. You can't just automate for one region, but what we try to do is service the lowest common denominator. So the more strict they are, we try to meet that threshold so that we know that it'll work for all regions.
What region has some of the most strictest kind of compliance standards when it comes to this?
EU, hands down EU. Germany's particularly strict. I was talking to someone earlier today. They have double opt-in for email marketing, which is particularly difficult when you're trying to get that second notification in a timely manner.
So you'll build it for Germany, and then you'll kind of take that practice and figure out how it works for the rest of the regions?
Yeah, that's what we try to do. It's not a perfect system by any means, but that's the theory is to build for the stricter regions and then scale it out to the less strict regions.
Where does language come into this, right? Do you only focus on English, or do you kind of have to diversify for all of the different languages too?
So the English-speaking regions are the main focus, but for every region you need to focus on language. There's localization, we have translators, we have people who are working in the markets to make sure that the translators who may not be in the market are actually using the same colloquialisms as the local markets.
Got
so,
it.
yeah.
They want to make sure it's written by a person.
By
right?
a local, yeah.
So automation's not a one-size-fits-all strategy, right? Like we like to believe that it's going to help us do our jobs better, but there's still a lot of customizations that have to happen here. So what are some of the things that you have to consider when you start building these different workflows?
So one of the things that you have to think about is, once you build something, what are the touch points that you have to customize and maintain on a regular basis? So you're setting a lifecycle journey. Great, you've got your lifecycle journey. You can't set it and forget it. You need to go back. And also, in a space like streaming, content's always changing. So you need to go back and refresh content. You have to refresh different topics. It's not something that you can just build and then walk away.
Right. How often are you guys refreshing that content?
So what we have is an API. So we use different machine learning data that pipes it into the API, and we pull it. So I know Movable Inks here. That's one of our vendors, and the content is changing constantly, and especially on open. If users already watched something yesterday, and today they're going to get some other recommendation.
Got it. So what are kind of the 2 key elements that you think you need to have in order to run marketing automation at scale?
You have to have great data. Roger was talking about this before, access to data and timing. You need to make sure that everything that you send, whether it's an email or a push or an in-app message, that you're delivering it to the customer in a timely fashion. Someone who is browsing, let's say on an e-commerce site for wallets one day may not want to buy the wallet the next day. So you want to get them when they're browsing and within that time frame where they're really eager to buy.
So when it comes to the data, is that something that you're looking at, or is that kind of an adjacent team that you have that works through when you're thinking through the automation?
You know, I think as a marketer, especially these days, you have to look at the data. There's definitely BI teams and a ton of other teams that are doing the analytics and the hard work in getting that data parsed and on your dashboards or on your emails or, you know, somewhere visible for you. But as a marketer, you have to look at the data.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it on a regular basis.
Yeah. And when it comes to timing, are you guys actually getting in here and saying, hey, you've been streaming for too long, it's time to cut it off?
Never.
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 I knew it. So there's going to be like an art and science, right? AI is obviously not going to replace anyone's job. It can help us do the job effectively. But so what is this balance between having the human touch but still allowing the technology to just make us more effective? Like, where does that kind of balance between art and science come from?
You know, there's the algorithms. A lot of people talk about the algorithms for AI and machine learning. You have to have those in place, but then you also need to refine them. So when we're making recommendations, I was talking to someone again earlier today. We've had probably 3 or 4 different iterations of the algorithm just in the past year, like constantly trying to figure out what is it that people watch, what is it what titles are related to the things that they watch, and trying to pull that together. But then, when you're talking about the art of it, you also have the tastemakers. So you need to be able to understand, even if people aren't watching this other thing over here, how do you get them to watch it because it's just a really good show, you know? So it's a little bit of both. You have to pull that data in, but then also push forward the things that are undervalued or under-merchandised.
And I imagine that's all different based upon the region and country that you've set it up at, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
people in different areas are going to have different preferences, right?
Yes, for sure. Germany loves the reality shows.
More than the United States?
Dating Naked is a very, very popular show.
Has anyone ever heard of the show, Dating Naked? Yeah, okay, we have 1, maybe 2 people back here.
But then you have, other regions that like the high drama, other regions that like the sci-fi. Animation is very popular in France. I don't know if anybody knew that, but I didn't until I started working in the international area.
That's so fascinating. So is there, as we think about like where AI and automation is coming into our workflow, right? Can something ever be too automated? Like, does it become too driven by the machine?
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, like you need to have that personal touch. You also need to customize for that user. You have to be very careful about the content that you're putting out that's being delivered by a machine. Like another example I can give is when there's controversy. The machine doesn't know that there's controversy. The machine doesn't know that there are certain topics that you shouldn't touch. So that's when the customer, the marketing team or the custom content delivery comes in play.
Yeah. So are there some things within your day-to-day that you would never want to automate? That you're like, hey, I will always have a human touch to this element?
Yeah, I mean, content is a very tricky game.
Yeah.
Content's a tricky game, and you cannot automate everything when it comes to that.
Have you explored using kind of AI to create your content or help supplement that, or are you still kind of relying on a human touch?
That's a good question. That's something that AI content asset delivery, content asset creation is something that's very new. So that's not something we do yet. But I think it's something that we can explore. But you're always going to have that last human touch point to see.
Copy editor.
Yeah, if it should go or stay.
So we're gonna talk about customer retention and loyalty within our own channels, email and SMS and in-app messaging a lot over the next couple of days. But let's kind of spend a minute on the acquisition side of our jobs, right? So a big focus, I imagine, of what you guys do is getting new subscribers to Paramount Plus, right? So what does an optimized sign-up flow look like?
When you're talking about optimizing funnels, you want the least amount of steps possible. Every additional step that goes into that funnel is an opportunity for fallout. So I would say the number one thing is, ease of use, making sure it's intuitive and people can flow through easily, and just breaking down those barriers. But you also have these situations where people go through and they change their mind, or they're about to leave. That's when you can use automation to message them and say, hey, look, here's an opportunity for you to stay. Here's a promotion. So we can use those kinds of tricks as well.
Yeah. Do you think that...
Or tools, not tricks.
Do you automate any of the sign-up aspect, or is that kind of all still on a human touch level? And then once they're in there is when kind of the journeys take over?
If you're doing it right, I don't think that you need to automate. You give them the least amount of fields to fill out and get them in the door.
How many fields is too many fields?
It depends on your business. But I would say if you can get their email, start with that. Yeah.
So above everything else, capture the email, and then everything else can kind of get filled in through...
Post sign up. Yeah. Credit card and payment, obviously, if that's the business that you're in. But everything else can come afterwards.
I like it. So let's pivot to app for a minute, right? Which I know app falls under your purview too.
Yeah.
So the initial download is the one thing, right? How do we get people to download the app? But the real benefit is when they opt in for the notifications, because that's when they're getting those reminders, and that's when they're seeing the 6 seconds to open the email or the push notification. Yeah. So where does the opt-in kind of fit into the sign-up flow and acquisition strategy?
So I'm going to amend what I just said before about the email. That opt-in should be also when they're giving you the email.
Real time changing up here, you guys. So at real time, they need to be able to opt in, right?
Yeah, when they're giving you the email, it makes the most sense.
Okay. And then, so what personalization strategies would you implement to kind of prioritize for in-app messaging versus something that's just like email?
So once a user has signed up, the best thing that you can do is kind of walk them through the onboarding process. And part of that onboarding process is collecting some personal information, if they're willing, to give it to you to in the future personalize the content that you're going to send to them. So what are their interests, their age, their demographic, region, if you don't already collect it in the sign-up flow or the payment flow. That onboarding personalization is really important.
And will you think about kind of personalized promotions as part of the sign-up flow, kind of based upon, oh, Erin is really likely to convert, we don't need to give her 3 months free, versus something like Rebecca may need a little bit of a push over here?
In the international regions, it's a lot harder to do that because you have to provide the same offer to everyone, but that's definitely something that can be done, yeah.
Oh, internationally, you have to provide the same offer to everyone, so you can't customize it based upon the person.
Yeah, it's tricky. It depends on the region, but it's very tricky.
Yeah. Do you think promotion is a big aspect to get the customer acquisition, right? We've all seen the 10% off when you do this, or get your first 3 months free and then continue. Can email and own channels, can these exist without a promotion piece?
Yeah, it depends on the product you're selling. It really does. But for retention, I think it's a lot more effective. I know we're talking about acquisition, but it's more effective to provide that incentive for people to stay.
Yeah. And so you see that if you see someone kind of on the verge of canceling, will you also kind of start integrating that into their workflows too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So once these triggers are in place, right, you have a working system here that's ready to go. How do you manage them? How do you keep them fresh?
Again, that goes back to the content and APIs, the personalization APIs. You kind of use both tools that you have available to you, like a custom aspect as well as automated.
Yeah. Is there anyone you think is doing this really, really well? Not necessarily within the industry or kind of even outside of it?
Yeah, as far as messaging goes, push messaging, I think Tesla does it really well. If you have a Tesla car and something's wrong with it, or if your doors are unlocked, or if there's something that needs to be done for the car, they give you the information you need and that you want for that particular time. Another example for people who are shopping, I think Coach does a really good job. They know their customers really well. They feed them the style that they want. If there's somebody who likes discounts like me, they always give discounts. It's really, they're very good at messaging.
So when you started kind of digging into building all of the automation at Paramount Plus, was there something that really surprised you the most as you were getting into the weeds of it all?
Yeah, I was really surprised at how important data is, and marketers aren't necessarily technical, so it's very hard for us marketers. I used to be a product developer, so I know
one
a
of
little
us
more.
now.
Yeah, it's hard for us to understand why isn't it faster? Why isn't it the way you expect it to be? But there's a lot of pipes behind the scene that need to be in place before you can get that really fast interaction.
So as we were talking about with message gears, like going this idea from idea to launch within 1 week, right? Is that implementable, or are you guys still kind of seeing that it takes a lot of the hoops to jump through?
I need to talk to Message Gear because that seems impossible to me.
Awesome. Kim,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for some audience Q&A.
Absolutely. Don't be shy. And when you're asking questions over the next couple of days, let us know who you are and where you're from, so the millions of people watching will know that brilliant question came from the person. You guys, I've never seen 80 asleep people sitting upright before. Okay, here we go. Ryan Phelan, take it away.
All right. Ryan from RP Origin. So you talked about acquisition and just asking for the email address. Have you tested other things to see what the adoption would be if you can get any of that preference data up front?
I think testing is one of the most important things that you can do as a marketer. When it comes to Paramount Plus ourselves, we haven't tested. We tested on the U.S. side, but in international, it's a little bit trickier because of regulations. So, but yes, for when it comes to anything that you're questioning, oh, will this work or will it not? Testing. Yeah, it's a great question.
Lori. It's so good. When you do a show as long as we have, I know these people by name. Hey, Lori. All right, Lori, tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Lori from Data Axle. I'm just curious, I know you're on the email side of things, but do you work with your other groups as far as digital and social, and are you coordinating together, or do you find that you're still super siloed like we see a lot of times?
Actually, I'm not just on the email side. I'm on the merchandising side and acquisition. We don't work with social, we're not part of the same group, but we do work with them closely. So yeah, I mean, for when you have so many different regions, you have to work with other teams in order to be efficient.
On the testing piece, right, I totally agree with you, right? Like the benefit of what we do is we can test almost everything. Are there some things that you think we should just like shut up and go do kind of thing? It's like we don't necessarily need to test this. We have to kind of lead with our intuition, or do you still say, hey, test it first before rolling out?
I'm a very intuitive person, so I always had that instinct of like, let's just do it, right? Yeah. Like, is it gonna work? But it depends on your type of business. Like, what kind of risks are you willing to take? Can you take the risk of just doing it? Yeah. Sometimes testing takes a long time, and there's not that time. So it depends on the situation, too.
Yeah.
One back here, Erin. Hang on.
Hey, Kim, good morning. I'm Christina with Acoustic.
Hi.
Love the chat so far. I'm questioning about merchandising and working with email marketing. How are you currently leveraging behaviors between the two? Are you able to easily combine those so you can leverage behaviors and merchandising within email marketing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So on Paramount Plus, we have different titles and different priority titles. And depending on what we're merchandising, we'll work with our CRM team. And by the way, it's not just email, it's also push notifications and in-app notifications. But if it's a high priority title, we'll work with them to get the word out, get users to engage. So it's definitely something you work hand in hand with merchandising and email and push in-app.
One more back here.
John's getting a workout this morning.
I know, I'm sorry. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for presenting today. Kara from the Carolina Panthers, Charlotte FC. I'm super curious how you manage all your international versions and the legalities that go around all of those, especially Germany.
Are you talking about translations? Or are you talking about journeys?
More the journeys, but also just all the restrictions and all the compliance aspects in the different countries.
We have a very strict legal team.
Yeah, okay.
Shout out to Cleo. She'll probably never see this, but she's amazing. But they review every single email that goes out, every single app, a feature, and any kind of push messages. They see it all.
Anyone else? Bueller?
Last chance.
Before we let Kim go, not only do we have millions of people watching here on the live stream, but you also have a couple other special guests here today. Do you mind if we say hello to them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, family. Back there, look at this. Hey, guys, that's Kim's family right there.
Olivia and JoJo and my husband Lance.
Yeah, you know how to do an event. You bring the kids, the family, and you hang out at the pool. I like that.
Bringing the next generation of email marketers over here.
Yes.
Is this what you guys want to do for a living? Yeah? Oh, we stunned them. They're terrified of me now. Kim, thank you so much.
You,
what a
Erin.
fantastic way.
Thanks,
to kick
everyone.